Hey guys, it's Piper. If this is our first time meeting, and it probably is because my depressing advertiser and friendly videos tend to be more algorithm friendly for some reason. Hi, yes I drew this. The program I'm using is Fire Alpaca. I have a Ravenclaw tattoo but was sorted into Slytherin, easily the fourth worst experience of my life, and I want to die because I have the mind of a middle-aged man and the body of a teenage girl, minus this redunculous badonkadonk that correlates with a spike in view duration above 100% cause y'all are fucking perverts. That's right, I noticed. And if this video ends up being a mess, it is because I'm a mess. Jo was my role model for like 20 years. I would have never written my book if she hadn't inspired me to love literature as a child. So her tweets and her manipulative follow-up message, it all has me kind of heartbroken. I guess I'm just gonna have to be my own role model now. I don't know. I actually scripted this video months ago, but I decided not to post it. But since she decided to silence us by disabling the comments on her latest thing, I changed my mind. This video is kind of addressed to Jo, but also to everyone, so just roll with it. I don't want to talk about this anyway, but I feel like I have to since I've defended her in the past, so, it's gonna be rough. Grab a beer if you're legal, and let's get started. Jo Rowling tweeted this on December 2019. Dress however you please, call yourself whatever you like, sleep with any consenting adult who will have you. Live your best life in peace and security. But force women out of their jobs for stating that sex is real. Hashtag I stand with Maya. Hashtag this is not a drill. Now, some of you may not see what the problem is. You may be thinking, Piper, you're overreacting, or Piper, she's just defending freedom of speech, and I can see where the average person is coming from. If you don't read this tweet somewhat carefully, it looks supportive. Several people, including A-list celebrities, have liked it and then unliked it when they realized what it really says between the lines. I would argue that this tweet alone is actually enough to prove that she's transphobic, which is why I was not surprised by her tweets on June 6th. You see, you can't support both trans people and trans exclusionary people at the same time, let alone in the same tweet. I could end this video here, but I can tell some of you will need a little more convincing than that, and that is understandable. It took me a long time to admit to myself that J.K. Rowling wasn't perfect, and even then I always just told myself, oh, hey, she's a human being living the human experience, just like everyone else, and she'll grow to be more inclusive in time. But, after years and years of bending my beliefs backwards to make excuse after excuse for her behavior, I can no longer find any excuses to justify her words. So let's really break down her statement so, maybe I can get at least some of you to see why it's so damaging. I'm not doing this to vilify J.K. Rowling. I want everyone to know that that's not the place I'm coming from. I do not think canceling her is effective. I don't really have time to get into it right now, but I promise you cancel culture is counterproductive. It makes bad people rich and falsely accused people miserable. I am making this video because I need everyone to understand why her tweets are so wrong so that she will be held accountable for her actions. But most importantly, I want this message to reach her. Not this video, I'm a jerk, but the message in the video. I need her to understand that this is not okay, particularly not with the platform she has, and especially not now, of all times. I need her to change her behavior and be better, because even though I don't support her anymore, even though she's not my role model anymore, she's still a leader, whether I support her or not. So first of all, let's get one thing clear. Jo Rowling is out of touch, yes, but she's not stupid. She is a genius, I assure you. She knows what she's doing. She knows what she's saying in this tweet, and she knows what she is implying. She is a writer, for f***'s sake. If she can write complex subtleties in a 7-book series, she can write them in a 140 or fewer characters tweet. So let's not act like she's just some clueless boomer who caught a bad case of the SJW hate, because this particular tweet cannot be reduced to that, nor can the ones that followed on June 6th. Look, even I'm commenting on this after a lifetime of defending her for everything she's ever done, and I'm pretty sure SJWs hate me anyway. And now that that's out of the way, let's start by looking at the placement of the word but. The word but is a coordinating conjunction that effectively nullifies everything that comes before it in terms of importance. It has a way of turning innocuous or even positive comments into veiled insults. I know this because I have a literature specialization and, like basically everyone else on Earth, saw Game of Thrones.
My brother once told me that nothing someone says before the word but really counts.
Let's get some examples in for those of you who know English on a more instinctive level. Ask yourself if any part of these sentences sounds like a genuine compliment. She's beautiful, but she isn't very smart. He can throw balls far, but does he really deserve to be a billionaire? I love you, but why don't you ever stop talking? Live your best life in peace and security, but fire a woman for believing sex is real? You see, she has various stages of acceptable trans behavior, but nothing before the but really matters anyway.
Everything before the word but is horseshit.
The only thing in this tweet that matters to her is the support of a known transphobe. Also, it's worth mentioning, trans people didn't rule against Maya, the tribunal and Judge Taylor did, but yet Rowling is still acting like trans people are at fault for the results of this ruling. For doing what? Existing? I mean, yeah, I guess she has a point there. Those laws protecting us wouldn't exist if we didn't exist. Who wants to join my suicide pact? May we be reincarnated into a more tolerant world. Maybe somewhere in the Pleiades? Come on, don't be fooled, guys. At best, anything ever said before the word but throughout the entirety of the history of time is at best used to soften the blow of the inevitable insult that always follows it, okay? By using this setup, she is nullifying any positivity in those statements, nullifying the importance of trans people living their lives freely, and framing trans people as the problem, the inconvenience. Trans people are the ones being unreasonable here for even existing and needing protection in the first place. In simpler terms, trans people are being portrayed as bad because of the sentence structure, even though at first glance the words themselves don't seem all that bad. You could say, well, Piper, maybe she doesn't know that, maybe it was an accident, to which I have to say, if she doesn't know that much, she should have that honorary English degree ripped out of her claws. You know, I mean, really. Living our best life in peace and security is not nearly as important to her as holding on to the right to dismiss us in any capacity she is allowed. That is the message she is really conveying with this tweet, not one of solidarity. She pictures us as an inconvenience to the cisgender way of life, or perhaps as not even being genuine about our own identities, like we're playing dress up or using a male pen name for no apparent reason. As for the statement, sleep with any consenting adult who'll have you, that not only suggests that trans people trend toward non-consensual relations, which despite frequent accusations, no we don't, but also that we aren't worth having. It's just gross. Like the idea that we're undesirable. Why even voice that, direct or implied? How is that a constructive statement? Now, I've heard some people saying this is a colloquial phrase, and if that's true, I'm assuming it's some kind of boomer Britishism, because I've never heard it before. If any British people want to clear this up for me, that would be great for my American brain, thank you. If you still don't believe me about this whole thing, try replacing the words before the but with positive affirmations about black people, and then replace the words after the but with support for someone who is penalized for constantly tweeting about black people being genetically inferior according to quote-unquote science. You would not hesitate to call her a racist hiding behind fake science if she did that, and rightfully so. So why are we so hesitant to call her a trans-exclusionary radical feminist, aka transphobic? Or at least that's how I hope it would play out if she tweeted something that heinously racist. But like, I'm starting to lose faith in humanity's ability not to be prejudiced when even the woman who made my childhood magical is still acting like this after months of receiving criticism and not evaluating herself properly. Not to mention the current goings-ons of the world. 2. Jo clearly didn't do her research, or else is blatantly lying to manipulate us, because Maya Forstater was not fired for simply believing that sex is real. This is really a multi-part issue, so let me break it down. A. Maya wasn't fired at all. That is a direct lie. She lost her job because her contract expired. That is not the same thing. It took me like 2 seconds to fact check this and like 5 minutes to verify the fact check and find out that Maya her name is just another TERF. I don't have some special version of the internet that Jo can't access. If I can find this information, let alone that quickly, so can she. This tells me she didn't look, and that tells me she doesn't care. Maya's contract expired. No further contract was promised, and she was not rehired because her beliefs did not align with the organization she was working for, Center for Global Development. And by beliefs, I mean Maya was actively misgendering people. Judge Taylor rejected her claims that her dismissal, if you can even call it that, was unfair, and the judge went on to call her an absolutionist and say, quote, It is also a sleight of hand to suggest that the claimant merely does not hold the belief that trans women are women. She positively believes that they are men and will say so whenever she wishes. Put either as a belief or a lack of belief, a view held by the claimant fails the Granger criteria, and so she does not have the protected characteristic of philosophical belief. End quote. In other words, her views are not protected by freedom of speech. Source, the employment tribunals. And when the tribunals didn't agree with her, Maya took to the internet to whine and cry about quote-unquote losing her job, as if she had a claim on it, which again, she did not, because her contract expired and no further contract was ever promised to her. Nobody owes that entitled brat shit-ass anything. Again, the employment tribunals are publicly available on the same internet Joe has, and also the same internet you have, so I will link to it in the description. It's 26 pages long, ouch, but it's kind of hilarious in a sad way. You know, Maya thinks the term cisgender is offensive, and I'm supposed to be the snowflake here. What a wimp. Excuse me. Hiccup. 5-star read. You know, she even implied trans people are manipulating the law to cheat on their taxes. You know, because clearly why else would anyone change their name? Anyway, moving on. I'm not here to make fun of her, or am I? Who knows? Anyway, no organization should be forced to hire someone. Again, not even retain an employee, but rehire an independent contractor who doesn't agree with what's best for the company or the humans who work for it. And how good of an employee can you possibly be if you're misgendering people and then saying, quote unquote, and this is funny, I have no desire or intention to be rude to people. What? F you too, Maya. Unlike you, I'm not afraid to admit that I'm rude to people. It's pretty sad when you're more afraid of being perceived as rude than you are of misgendering someone with crippling dysphoria from a mental disorder with a high suicide rate. Doesn't matter if you're polite, if you're an actual f***ing troll. And I don't mean like a 4chan troll, I mean the kind that live under bridges and eat children. Now B, the same sleight of hand, as the judge called it, found in Maya's arguments, as well as most TERFs, actually, is found in Rowling's tweet. The issue is not, nor was it ever, that Maya believes sex is real. No one is saying that sex is not real. That is a manipulatively worded oversimplification of the real problem. I, too, believe sex and gender are both real, and I do it without making other people feel marginalized. The issue is not about whether or not sex is real. It is that Maya is transphobic. You know, like the tribunal proved and published a 26-page document explaining, quote, having protected characteristics, including philosophical beliefs, does not prevent people from having to take the care not to harass others, end quote. Transphobes don't always come out and say, hey, trans women are freaks, you know, especially TERFs. TERFs are not overtly menacing like the alt-right, not usually. They're experts at using manipulative language to avoid coming off as a hate group. They'll do things like cherry-pick data and pretend it's always been about protecting women all along, you know? They'll call themselves gender critical, and they'll ignore recent scientific findings in favor of outdated beliefs that people have had for centuries. Pro tip, science evolves. Please stop using studies from the 70s to justify being cruel to others. It may fool people temporarily, but it's clearly not working out for you, so maybe consider minding your own damn business, getting a life. I need water, I think my voice is gonna die. Okay. See, the whole sex is determined at conception. XX equals female, XY equals male. It's not true. It's an oversimplification that was taught to you in school because the school board thinks that we're all a bunch of dipshits who can't handle anything more complicated than that. And maybe they're right if you're honestly dumb enough to believe that sex is immutable, even after being told for years that all newly fertilized human embryos start out as female. All of them, for 5 weeks. That's why men have nipples. Because they're all transgender. Harry Potter, trans icon. Though I should mention, like, a 2017 mouse study seems to imply that we start out sexless or something because they found a protein that controls the removal of male reproductive tissue in female mice embryos. And, you know, I'm not 100% sure how that translates to humans other than, obviously, everyone is transgender. Did you hear the good news? All Harry Potter characters are transgender. I am dead set on ruining this for her in case you haven't noticed. But, This isn't a biology video and I'm not qualified to make one, so I'll just link to more information in the description and carry on like I don't want to die. To summarize this point, current science does not reject the notion that there are more than two sexes or that sex can be changed. It actively supports a mutable spectrum of sexes. And stop typing that comment. I see you down there in your comment box. I'm not talking about intersex people. Some cis women have deep voices and don't menstruate, and that doesn't make them men, so why should it make trans women men? This is stupid. And you know, that was just a small example, but I don't care about your blog post or your fringe studies. You can absolutely find a study claiming things like vaccines cause autism or skinny people hate fat people because they see fat as a disease and don't want to catch it. And no, I did not make either of those things up, unfortunately. Not even the second one. I know, right? I can't even have faith in science anymore. Just catch up or shut up, because Quarantine Piper cannot handle this nonsense. I am 420 blaze it % done. Again, Jo is a genius. She is more than smart enough to where she should be able to tell the difference between a real opinion based on science and a thin veil for prejudiced beliefs. For fuck's sake, she wrote a 7-book series that's essentially about the ugliness of discrimination. So, best case scenario, she is remaining willfully ignorant and yet insisting on speaking like she is an authority on a delicate subject she knows nothing about, and that is not okay. And there comes my hiccups to ruin the mood. I should not have had a soda before recording. 3. If you still don't believe me, just look at the field day transphobic people are having in the replies. They would not be in there doing that if J.K. Rowling had not sung their mating call. When someone with the phrase gender critical in their bio tweets you the words thank you and tells you to stand strong, that's a sign you fucked up. Yeah, and now we have all the so-called Christians suddenly coming out of the woodwork to thank her for spreading Jesus' good message to love everyone except trans people, when years ago they were ready to hang her for witchcraft in a work of fiction. That's the type of people we're talking about here. I am not kidding. I should know. I attended a Christian private school for years until I got expelled from it. Best day of my life. And all things Harry Potter were banned from school grounds. We weren't even supposed to talk about it. So congrats, Rowling, you've alienated a large portion of your fan base, but now the emotionally reactive zealots who banned your books that you slaved over for years and years are suddenly supporting you, conditionally at least, and, with a large asterisk. Meanwhile, hardcore fans are abandoning you and other celebrities are openly criticizing you. Come on, clearly you don't think all this is a good sign. Do you really think this was a good idea? I mean, come on. By downplaying Maya's actions and misleading with her words, Jo is protecting and supporting a transphobe, so I feel pretty confident saying, yeah, I wasted 2 decades of my genderqueer life idolizing a transphobe. Now, it is possible, I guess, that Jo really does just think she's doing the right thing, and that she's defending freedom of speech, and she has no clue just how ignorant she is, but even if that's the case, which I highly doubt because of the wording of her tweet, not to mention her most recent word salad, I cannot stress enough how it's not okay. Jo has a large platform and therefore more responsibility than the average person. This is not like when your uncle you rarely see goes off on some random tangent about a man in a dress going into the women's room because he can't stand that the world is changing. I don't know. Because Jo has influence whether she likes it or not, and her words carry enough weight to severely hurt people. She can't just post shit without consequence. I mean, I'm not perfect, and I've tweeted without thinking many, many, many times. But there is a reason I don't talk about politics on my YouTube channel, where I actually have followers. Well, 2 reasons, actually. The first is that American politics are an actual shit show.
That being said, at the state level, I would support some legislation that would stop children from being allowed to purchase drugs and prosecute anyone who would put a child in danger, because I do believe that children do need some protection. Yes, you should not be able to sell heroin to a 5-year-old.
But most importantly, what if I'm wrong, What if I sway my subscribers in the wrong direction? What if an election goes badly and it's my fault because I planted the seed? You have to think about these things before you just tweet shit. And it's understandable to get it wrong sometimes. No one always says the right thing 100% of the time, and I think my communication success rate is maybe about 20%, and that's probably just pity points because people know I'm autistic. But when you get something wrong, you have to mend the situation, or at least try to mend it. You can't just disappear from Twitter for your mental health after putting your fans through a crisis of their own. That's selfish as fuck. Especially for someone who is considered a role model of millions. So, but of course, now here in June, she's handled this even worse, which I didn't think she could possibly do. But I will be talking more about that in part 2 and maybe part 3, because it could take me a while to even just go through all of this, and people seem to prefer shorter serialized videos as opposed to a 2-hour deep dive. Look, I don't give a fuck what you think about me personally as a genderqueer person, and it's not like I ever gave half a square to piss about my reputation, as you can see by the fact that I'm even making this video, let alone so candidly. I don't care about much of anything anymore. Quarantine blues. But if nothing else, believe me when I say that it is not easy to have gender dysphoria. And as a group, trans people are not doing any harm. Maya needs to reevaluate herself if she thinks trans people are the reason she was not rehired. I refuse to tolerate this victim-blaming horseshit. TERFs will tell you that we're just trying to warp science around our feelings, to indulge in our delusions at the cost of women's rights. But come on, not only is that not true, but being transgender is not just a feeling. Transphobes love to chime in with that facts don't care about your feelings shit, but it's wrong to relegate gender dysphoria as a feeling, because gender dysphoria is a legitimate mental illness recognized by the American Psychiatric Association, just like depression or autism. These are the people who make the rules, not transphobes on the internet. I don't care what you think qualifies you to shit on an entire demographic of fans for something they can't change about themselves. It is nothing over the APA. I mean, really, look at the suicide rate for trans people. Look at it. What do you think trans people are killing themselves left and right for? To reduce the rate at which they are murdered? Which is also really high, by the way, especially for black trans women. This is a very marginalized group, and, the way we are treated, it makes it harder to cope with an already dysphoric existence. And this is a maltreatment that you are now actively participating in. And, of all times, during Pride Month, Black Lives Matter protests, and a global pandemic that has killed over 428,000 people. As of me recording this, the number will have gone up by the time this video is up. And of all the causes you could be supporting now, you choose trans exclusion. Seriously? You are hurting the people who look up to you, and that's just totally uncool, bro. I probably just sounded exactly like what British people stereotype Americans to talk like, but whatever, I'll just own it. You're an uncool bro, Rowling. An uncool bro. Okay. I'm not even binary, and it's still hard. Hell, I'm not even out of the closet, because it's hard. I'm having a hell of a hard time just trying to get into the army, and God knows my psychiatrist is tired of the hoops I've been jumping through to avoid a gender dysphoria diagnosis. I mean, I was very upfront about my gender identity, but anytime dysphoria symptoms come up, I just flat out tell her that I'm not going to answer the question. I can't lie for shit. Not that I've been showing up to my appointments lately. Can't be trans on paper if I avoid the person who writes the paper. But sure, I'll take one for the team. This is all about freedom of speech, right? Who cares about my feelings? Freedom of hate speech, to be exact. Everyone knows that the freedom of immaturely stating whatever you want, whenever you want, not caring about the consequences of your words or who it hurts is far more important than values like love and compassion. Those stupid little messages you spent so much time focusing on in your book series. You could waste your time defending trans people who are unjustly fired for something they cannot change about themselves, or you can devote yourself to some spoiled little twerf who didn't get her way. Delegate your time as you see fit. After all, you seem so desperate to land yourself on the wrong side of history and destroy your legacy. It's not my legacy, so I don't care what you do with it. Fuck it. So, Joe, in conclusion, I beg of you, if you're even 1/10 of the woman I thought you were, please, for the love of allegedly gay Dumbledore, delete your stupid tweets, apologize, get educated by an actual reputable source, and most importantly, stay in your fucking lane. Don't do it for me. Like I said, I'm my own role model now. Do it for the people who still look up to you and believe in you after all this. It is the bare minimum. It is the absolute least you can do, is offer up one fucking little apology. Thanks. To everyone else, please consider checking out my channel and subbing if you're interested in my art or commentaries. I also have 2 Instagrams, one for me and one for Reddy from my book, and a Twitter for this guy I just drew who's the main antagonist. I always feel a little shy advertising my book. Sorry, this is not worded well. But if you like dark comedies, you might want to check it out. If you don't like dark comedies, you will hate my book. But regardless, there will be a part 2 to this video, as she has now dropped a metric ton of bad tweets a few days ago, as most of you already know. Actually, I think it's been like a week now, but whatever. I hope you're more excited to hear me rant about it than I am to rant about it. So please rate, subscribe, maybe hit that notification bell, and blessed be motherfuckers.